the Birds on Kiosk Radio. Today I have the pleasure to welcome Jeanna Criscitielo as my guest, and she will be performing from her concert series and podcast, And Then There Was Eve. Jeanna? Jeanna?
Margaret Duras.
Oh. Well, hi, Marguerite. What are you going to tell us a story today?
Stories always sound better when they're told to the rhythm of a mother's heartbeat. Her young draped around her, drunk on her smell and warmth. Like junkies, their skeleton is relaxed into sweet oblivion. Somewhere between consciousness and living death. I am the writer of those stories. I stumble through the day so that I can find the silence of the night and the solitude of words on a page. My son sleeps. Tonight I told him lies so that I could finally be alone. He wanted what I cannot give him, a fable with foxes and wolves. He wanted hidden meanings and nonsense morality. Everything I'm not. Even as children, boys who grow into men, ask girls who grow into women to be something they're not. I'm a writer. I'm also a mother, and probably an alcoholic. I cannot honestly say that being a mother is more important than being a writer, even though I couldn't survive if I had to live 1 second without my son. And I certainly couldn't tolerate being told by anyone that I should stop drinking. I'm a creator of stories and men. And these powers earn me the freedom to have as much whiskey as I damn well please. tonight I gave in. I pretended to be someone I'm not. I was soft and hypocritical. I allowed my imagination to follow a rabbit into a rabbit hole. I don't know what I look like in the dark. I don't know if the ground beneath my feet is quicksand, waiting to swallow me up. But I'm a mother, and mothers sacrifice their souls for their children, for love. So settle in, pour yourself a drink, close your eyes, and let's start from the beginning.
Ooh. Marguerite or Jeanna? I get chills every time I hear that. So that thank you. It's a real pleasure to be in the same room with you and experience the performances up and close. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about, and then there was Eve. But I guess first, kind of interesting to say how we met, which, yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pleasure. Well, we met through a mutual friend, Angela from Zolo Press,
Yeah.
who thought we might get along, and I guess she was right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was about a year ago, and it's been a real pleasure that you sent me your project, and I've been wrapping my head around it, and I got to see it recently at your performance at the Jewish Museum. Can you tell us a little bit about And Then There Was Eve?
Yes, with pleasure. So, And Then There Was Eve is a project about feminine identity, where I basically want to give Eve or a woman multiple personalities or find herself in the multiplicity of who we are. Everybody is many characters in one.
Mm-hmm.
And Eve allows me to take from experiences from many different people and create a female archetype or making a protagonist of her own story, not told by anybody else, but by voices of all these different women who were inspirations for people that I invited to participate in the project.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent a formal invitation, and I asked them who their female hero was, and they came back to me with their hero and an object associated with that person. And I wrote and composed music and text that wove this new narrative in one.
Yeah, and so the last piece we heard was from Marguerite Duras. So who are some of the other characters that you portray?
Some of the other characters, there's Calamity Jane, there's Pippi Longstocking, there's Charlotte Gilman Perkins, there's Denise Scott Brown, there's Julia Butterfly, there's Sophie Podolsky, there's Chantal Ackerman, actually more specifically Jeanne Delman. There is Susan Sontag.
Yes. And so this project is, when did you start working on it? What time frame are we looking at?
Yeah, I had already started to transition from a more pop background into more performative, experimental music in the sense of needing to get out of a 3-minute, 30-second format and talk about subjects that had to do with feminine identity. And so I had started to send out these invitations, and then COVID. And then I found myself in a residence. I was lucky enough to be in a residence during COVID.
For musicians.
For musicians, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a hotel here in Brussels called the Jam Hotel, and they didn't have any customers.
Right. Yeah.
So they thought, well, let's try to use some of our rooms for a good cause, and they invited a variety of different types of musicians to set up their studios in the rooms on the 6th floor, and everybody had their studios, and I started to review these first demos and the process, and it became more and more clear, and I was in this time warp like everybody at that time. But that allowed me a kind of freedom that I had missed actually throughout my career. So I was very thankful to be in the situation where I had the time. I was surrounded by other people also working on their projects, so it was very inspiring. And it came to be in this very small little room, so I had to manage with all my gear, and I felt like I was like an octopus, sort of like, turning knobs, and then it became something like just those gestures became important.
Yeah. So it was. So it's COVID. You're teaching yourself this the equipment and the production and everything, and writing based on instinct or what? How do you write the text for the characters? What's the process for that?
So when I ask the person, so I use my close communities to start off. When I asked the people around me who was your hero and associated an object with that person, they came back to me with emails and photographs and lots of information in regards to who they chose, because it was a wide net. So it could be a family member, it could be a historical figure, it could be a fictitious person. And once they proposed me their hero, then I would, if I could research it, I researched it. I would buy the books, I would go and look online to see videos or listen to music or these kinds of things. And then what was nice was that the exchanges were so rich. The exchanges were so inspiring in and of themselves. So the hero was one inspiration, but then the person who told me about their hero was also an inspiration.
Right.
And so the layers started very quickly.
Yeah.
And so the text became a good, I would say, litmus test of this weaving fiction and nonfiction and memory and all of these things that obviously, we were all also thinking about a lot at that time.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed writing the text and also using some poetic license and, just really weaving new stories and new narratives even in a particular hero's story.
Yeah, the layering, as I listen to the pieces and see the performance, and I keep going back to the performances and finding new meaning, and I think it really works in the sense of like trying to flesh out an archetype, and that's kind of where that's the role that you've taken on, and why. So it's like you're curious to explore identity through these archetypes. Where does that come from in your background, this curiosity?
I think it's like everybody. You're always curious. Who am I? All of these kinds of things. But a little bit further than that, I think there is this need to belong somehow. I came here to Europe. I didn't speak the language. I was sort of outside of my comfort zone for sure.
Yeah, me too.
We have that in common.
Yes,
for sure.
we do. We're both Americans who came to Belgium by way of our partners, and here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think so. I start with that, but also I think as a child, I was my parents. My mother moved around. I mean, when I was 13, I had moved 13 different times.
Wow. Yeah.
So that meant starting new schools every year. That meant having to listen to the teacher who can't pronounce my name.
Yeah. It's
and embarrass me in front of the whole class every year for at least the first few months of school.
So already your name is ambiguous.
Oh, my name's always been an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it goes from learning how to adapt in different situations as a young child, and then I was singing at an art festival when I was young. I was in a choir, and there was a photographer that came up to my mother and asked if he could take pictures of me. And then, without us knowing, he sent those pictures to modeling agencies. A modeling agency in New York called Elite New York.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And,
the best.
And then I started modeling. But I also started a professional singing career because the owner of the agency was John Casablancas, and he was passionate about music, and he knew that I had this voice, and he was excited to sort of like go on a new adventure. So he introduced me to a French producer, and then we ended up signing with MCA Records. And
wow. Yeah.
so it was.
How old were you when you?
I was 16.
Okay, and so you toured a little bit with that song and with those songs and
yeah,
yes.
It was not a professional thing like it is today. Like everything was much more okay. It was much more organic in those days, I think. So yeah, we did some concerts. We did. I mean, I also sang in a festival where Nina Hagen was there.
Nice. You also are the voice on Call a Wave, Malcolm McLaren's song, right?
Yes.
I love that song. It's maybe we can play it now, or
with pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So right. Let's see. This is Call a Wave. I know them, but the voice is okay. It's Call a Wave.
to shed my clothes forever, living under clouds and surf that seem like steam rising from a boiling cauldron.
So if you ever wanted to know who that sultry voice belonged to, now you know. And it's ironic almost. I guess you were, in your teen years when you made this song, and then but you're telling a story. It's a captivating. Even the words are minimal, but it's a captivating story. And that's, I think, what Eve really is about creating and retelling and layering these stories. I know there's a piece in your repertoire that where you really go through these characters and you really switch it up all in this same piece. Can you perform that for us today?
Yeah, with pleasure. We'll hear some different characters wanting to come through this radio show.
And if you're watching this, it's a real treat because you're going to see Jeanna switch. Switch. All right.
Bang, bang. Bang, bang. A girl who could keep up and fight and ride and curse with the best of them. Bang, bang. A girl who could keep up and fight and ride and curse with the best of them.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, bang. A girl who could keep up and fight and ride and curse with the best of them.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, bang. Ain't nothing scarier than some girl who could keep up and fight and ride and curse with the best of them with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, bang. Ain't nothing scarier than some girl who could keep up and fight and ride and curse with the best of them with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Can't count on miracles. Sometimes you just gotta have a plan. Ain't nothing scarier than some girl who can keep up and fight and ride and curse with the best of them.
No fly off. I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, bang. Ain't nothing scary. Some girl will keep up and fight, ride, and curse, best of it, with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, bang. Ain't nothing scary. Some girl will keep up and fight, ride, curse, best of it, with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, 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 bang. Ain't nothing scary. And some girl will keep up and fight, ride, curse, best of it, with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
She never wanted to go
Bang, bang.
there.
Ain't nothing scary. And some girl will keep up and fight, ride, curse, best of it, with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, bang.
She would
Ain't nothing scary.
always say,
Some girl will keep up and fight, ride, curse, best of it, with nothing.
"Oh,
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget
Bang, bang.
and
Ain't nothing scary. Some girl will keep up and fight, ride, curse, best of it, with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget
Bang, bang. Ain't nothing scary. And some girl
she
will keep
would
up and fight,
always
ride,
say,
it. I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
"I'm
bang, bang.
free."
Ain't nothing scary. And some girl will keep up and fight, ride, curse, best of it, with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, bang.
Love.
Ain't nothing scary. Some girl will keep up and fight, ride, curse, best of it, with nothing.
I'm the strongest girl in the world. Don't forget it.
Bang, bang.
If you can see my eyes, can you see my eyes? I'm crying. Like every time I hear you sing, it's moves me really. Yeah, it's what was your musical training like? I know you self-taught Ableton, etc., production, which is amazing. But where's your voice coming from besides heaven?
Let me turn off these
delay.
I don't know. I mean, my mother, I have such a strange, hold on one second. My mother said that when I was a baby, I cried like crazy and I woke the neighborhood up. So,
Wake up, everybody.
yeah. And I guess that's such a strange thing is that I've always sang. It's just so much a part of me and so much a part of how I relate to everything, actually. Music and it's always been there, and singing, it's just a natural thing. Also, being American, you know that, like everybody makes music, everybody seems to be a musician there somehow.
Yeah, that definitely lots of music in the streets even. Yeah. But who would you cite as some of your vocal references? Anyone you loved growing up?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I would have died and gone to heaven if I had, been Aretha Franklin. That was really, I grew up learning all of her songs by heart, and I guess that's a good school. You just copy people you love.
Yeah.
And and I mean, it was definitely a sort of soulful rhythm and blues, rock, folk influence. I mean, yeah.
And you sang in a choir. Was I assume with the school, or are you also working with the gospel at all? Because
Yeah.
Aretha did.
Yeah. Well, there's always choirs everywhere, and so there were school choirs, there were church choirs. I ended up moving in. I lived with my father for 2 years, and he was. I mean, yeah, he was definitely a church goer at that time. So it was a Baptist church choir in South Carolina. So there was that. So yeah, I've always loved these like strong woman voices, soulful voices.
Yeah, that comes through. Really fills the room and fills your body, and so. Like getting back to New York, and you were there at a really ripe time in the early '90s, late '80s. What was your experience like in New York? Like, with the city, or
I mean, it was like I say. I think there was this naiveness to everything at that point. There wasn't. I mean, I went back to live in New York as an adult, and it was very corporate.
Yeah.
There was something extremely. You have to sort of. You have to explain. You have to do these elevator, pitches all the time. I'm so and so. I work here. I make this amount of money, and this is my Instagram. And all these things have to happen in a very concise way so that people don't lose their attention.
Yeah, and that's probably hard for a person who has so many talents and a big range, and as we've been talking about identifying with the multiplicity of identity. It's hard to just pigeonhole yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was always impossible for me to sort of put that in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Or just summarize something. It's not. I mean, I like textures.
Yeah.
I like gray area that is messy.
Yeah.
And nothing, I prefer and I think it makes people softer. I think it makes people able to find them little bits of themselves in their different relationships, and that's really what my project is also about. Like, every time I would ask somebody to tell me, who is your hero or anti-hero, and it could also be people that they said influenced them in a negative way, and that they.
What do you mean by anti-hero? More?
I mean, it's not the role model you want to follow. And it is a kind of it's the thing you want to avoid. So we're trying to find people that we admire, that we believe in, but sometimes the people that we don't admire and believe in influence us as well.
Yeah.
A lot of times, actually.
Definitely, yeah. Sometimes more.
And sometimes more. And sometimes there's people that spoke about traumas and these kinds of things. And so they came out in these sometimes extremely intimate exchanges that I would have with people, which was beautiful. I mean, and it made me more conscious of the fact that I felt like I was doing something important.
Yeah, especially reaching out during COVID and making these, so who would you choose as your hero?
And at a certain point I realized that I didn't even ask myself that question. So it happened to be that at that time I was reading the autobiography of Susan Sontag.
Yes, yeah.
And the way she described New York, the way that she spoke about subjects that are still extremely important and so poignant and pertinent today. I thought, well, if there's one woman that would have to be a hero, and even though, yeah, she's much older, but that's what I also like about this project, this timelessness about it.
Yeah.
That it doesn't, somehow these people left their mark. And she's influenced me in ways of just the beauty of her writing, of the beauty of her mind, the beauty of what she was. She was an activist also for different causes, and I liked the fact that she was a strong woman, that she was the smartest person in the room, and she spoke too fast, and she twirled circles around people's thoughts, and yeah, she definitely impressed me.
Did you kind of, did you imagine, you said smartest person in the room, is that an imagination of being with her in the room? Did you?
Yeah, sometimes I try to put myself in somebody's head. And the object that I associated with her is were her personal journals that her son published after her death. So it's 100 personal journals, stream of thought, consciousness, and she really, she's a writer, so some of the things were just gorgeous. And
I think she also approached the journaling as a discipline, and it wasn't, in a way, the journaling, when I read it, it seems like it wasn't fun, and sometimes for her it was more, she had to. Would it be possible to hear that piece today?
With pleasure.
Yes.
So this is not for the faint-hearted. If you're not English speaking, I apologize, but this is how I imagined her, just going way too fast. I am a watchful night owl, patient and wise, keen to minute detail and astute observation. I am insatiably hungry. My head disconnected from my body, I use my vantage point to connect the riches of ancient philosophers to present analog gold miners. There's no way forward without looking back, but most importantly, the only words worth a dime are that I love you deeply. I just wish it didn't ache so much. I find it baffling because I have countless notebooks filled with my thoughts, as well as entries of the initials of all the people I've ever been with, but also loved. This is not my first time, so why now? Why L? I want to take my time with this. I want to understand my desires so that I can consciously dissect the feeling from the thinking. I don't want to feel my way into this and think my way out of it either. Male, female, hetero, homo, old, young, black, white, form, content, ethics, aesthetics, consciousness, sensuousness are not opposites at all. They are simply aspects of one another. I've worked hard to make peace with the constant pull from both directions. I'm aware that I'm capable of causing pain and destruction. I sincerely wish it could be different, but that's not who I am. Most people are afraid to step out of stereotypes and into a life of experiences. While I'm listening to myself write down these words, I realize how strong this makes me sound. I'm also afraid of a lot of things, but right now, at this moment, even with a war raging over my head, the thing I'm most afraid of is you. I wonder if I'm worthy. You are as stripped down of artifice as one can get. Your austerity and living, breathing lack of metaphor are the values and characteristics to which I have sworn my intellectual and philosophical allegiance. With you, there are no hidden meanings. I want to give myself to you the way I've given myself to Sarajevo and the people of this country. I am humbled by their courage, and I want to be there with them regardless of the danger. I feel the call of moral duty and noble civic action, and this is what brings me back here every time. This is a defining moment for Europe and for the rest of the world, but I seem to be the only Westerner who is willing to put my body in the line of fire. I cannot stand idly by while watching the pain of others. Sarajevo is waiting. We are waiting for help to come. Sarajevo is waiting. We are waiting for help to come. I'm up at dawn, wanting to finish writing everything I want to say to you, but no, I never will. In a couple of hours, I will be on a plane back to New York, and I will run to your door. I will have the smell of fear and gratitude to be alive on me, even after a hot shower. It will take some time for me to free myself from the guilt of being the one few to leave a city that is forgotten, to the privilege to do everything to be noticed by speaking loudly and obnoxiously above each other, without the slightest worry that a sniper will shoot them down the second they walk out the door. The contrast of these two realities is jarring, eerie, and the world's silence deafening. Is all the world a stage, and life just a dream? And yet, being close to death makes one leap to life, and life has to be lived. I have to allow myself to feel the truth of love, the abandoned, uncuffed, arms spread, free of metaphor. This is the most natural of human conditions, and yet the most difficult, as it requires us to lower the mask. Both daughters of alcoholic mothers, nothing about this will be easy. There is a lot of me to process, and I know that I will never glide through the air the way you do. I cannot defy gravity with your grace, but I can be on the ground with my books and cigarettes and desire. And indeed, it is only through the act of loving and being in love that the life of the mind can find its full expression.
Yeah. I wonder too if that piece, because she's an American and she's really involved in, she's putting herself in Europe, if that also is part of the reason you.
Maybe subconsciously.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the reference to Sarajevo is because she went and she tried to persuade Western Europe and America to go and help during this Holocaust at that time. She actually has a statue in her name in the main square.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Very powerful piece. So recently you had you were performing at the Jewish Museum for you did a Chantal Ackerman piece. Well, you did many pieces that was related to that. And what's the future of Eve? What's the trajectory that we're going from here?
The idea is to continue. I mean, this is, I look at this as one particular body of work, and I sort of developed a process, and now I need me to continue composing new music and making new performances and
As you said, it's timeless, so it's
yeah. We're never going to run out of inspirations.
That's great because I'm looking forward to V2.
Yeah.
And you have you have an album coming out.
I have an album coming out. It's a vinyl that I've made of all of of this piece, of this particular body of work. So this is V1,
Okay.
let's say. So that will be coming out, and you're all more than welcome to join us at St. Martin's Bookshop in the center of Brussels on the 13th, Friday the 13th of October.
Are you going to be performing there as well?
I'll do the whole live performance.
Great. And signing records?
And signing records if somebody wants one signed.
Oh, yeah. I think a few people might want one signed. We're getting, let's see, we're getting close to the end of the show. Is there anything else that you'd like to speak to about the project or?
No, I think so. I mean, I think we said it all.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's to recap, it's an exploration of a feminine identity, and you've had this multiple layered process, and it's going to keep going. So we have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces that I think really summarizes everything is the introduction that you've done on your podcast series.
Yeah.
Who is that person speaking?
Oh, that's a good question. So the intro in the podcast was actually when people spoke to me about their family members that were their heroes. Mm-hmm. They also asked me not to give too many clues away, so I needed to find some ways to mask their stories, and so I basically jumbled them up into one using a sort of form, allegory or fable form, and so I made this particular one as if it was Eve herself talking, who was all of these different stories of all of these different family members, but it's actually Eve speaking, and she is in some sort of animal form, and her friend is also in an animal form, and they're having a discussion.
Wow, I like that. So Eve's gone full rogue animal.
She's metamorphosized. She's got 4 legs, and she's ready to run.
Okay, well, let's. Can we hear the intro at the end do the intro as an outro?
I think we could.
Okay.
It might work.
All right, let's see. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. My friend the fox was crying. She was also chopping onions. So I wasn't really sure if it was because of my story or just the onions. It's hard to tell sometimes. So I just asked her to stop chopping, and I served us a glass of wine. We sat down on the living room floor, and then she asked me if I took any pictures on my trip. But I didn't. I never do. I always think about it too late, The magic moment is past, and I'm still trying to take it all in. So I decided to draw something. And what came out were some squiggly blue lines. Granted, it didn't look like much on paper. And Foxy was obviously not impressed. Until I explained what those lines really were. What I drew was my energy. I learned that from my Scottish healer. She taught me how important it was to be connected with your energy and what to do to keep it balanced. Because otherwise your candle burns from both ends and you get used up before you've even had a chance to get really good at karaoke, for instance. At that point, Foxy looked up to me, and she looked changed. She asked me if she was going to be all right. She was shaken, as if I'd unlocked some secret door. The layers are infinite, but the same story gets told over and over again. I wanted to soothe her. I wanted to lock up my love in a gold cameo necklace and put it around her neck so she could hold it close. I wanted her to know that this was a living record of all of my stories, which were also her stories, so that deep holes of darkness could be filled with every shade of color.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, Jeanna, for appearing. And look forward to October 13th.
Okay, with pleasure. Yes, I want to see you there.
Yeah, I'll be there for sure. And I'll put Jeanna's name in the chat so you can find her on Instagram. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. And I'll see you on October as well, back on the Kiosk Radio. Bye for now.